All right, little buddy. Are we going anywhere this week? Yeah? Where to? Mostly Japan. That's right, going back to Japan.
I'm turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so.
And why is that? Because we're looking at F. Right? What the F?
What the fuck?
Stop. Is that F 1.2? F 1.2. That's right, 1.2. Why is that such a big deal? Why not 1.4? Why not 1.0? Well, 1.2 was pretty popular in the day, so we're going to find out why.
Now why would I know that?
So grab yourself something to eat or drink, get yourself comfortable.
You just ate the most acid I've ever seen anybody eat in my life.
And let's get it on.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and normally Dylan, who's outside. But I've kicked him out of this Camera Talk because I'm going through multiple lenses and he's kind of just going to get in the way. So we'll bring him back next week for something else. Anyway, just as the intro says, what are we looking at this week? F.
Get the fuck out of here.
1.2. Wow. F 1.2.
Whoop-de-doo.
What's the big deal about that, right? Hey, we got plenty of 1.4s, right? I got a shelf load of 1.4s up there. But I have 6. We'll say, how many do I have? I have 6 1.2s. So what's the big deal? Why not just use 1.4? Well, let's get into that then. 1.2 is this far away from being a 1.4. Or you can look at it the other way. 1.4 is this far away from being a 1.2. So why do we go with 1.2s then?
I don't know.
Hey, portraiture. That's right. I want to take pretty pictures of people. 1.2 was the popular one in the day, especially throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the Japanese manufacturers out there had a field day with f1.2s. I mean, we're talking everybody, almost. Canon, Nikon, Fuji, Olympus, Minolta, Pentax, or Asahi as in the day, Tomioka, Yashica, Konishiroku,
over-the-top rendition of the Japanese accent.
Tamron, Konica, you name it, they all made 1.2s. There was one black sheep in the family.
I never thought it could be like this. Never in my wildest imagination.
Who made a 1.2 who was not Japanese, and that was our good friend Lights, or Leica as they're known as today. They made a 1.2 in, what was it, 1966. But they were the only ones. Otherwise, everybody who was making these was a Japanese manufacturer. So, you know, again, what really made the difference between a 1.2 and a 1.4? Seeing 1.4 made everybody else happy. So, what's 1.2? Well, if you know how the EV scale works, and in your camera body, in your lens body, the barrel on your aperture, they have stops, as you know, f-stops, right? So if you're at 1.2, it goes 1.2 to 1.4 to 2 to 2.8, you know, and on and on and on. Well, each one of these, the difference is between not just on the single lens itself, but between the 1.4s and the 1.2s. If you think of f1.0, just use that as ground zero. So that's EV0, right?
What you talking about, doctor?
You go up 1 to 1.1, and you're actually going up a third of a stop. So click, you're blocking the light by a third. Go up to 1.2, and you're up by 2/3. You like the sound effects? 1.4 is one whole stop. So between 1.0 and 1.4, that's one whole stop of light that you're stopping down, as they say, if you're getting smaller. And then going up to 1.8, now you're 2/3 of a stop. F2 is two stops. F2.8 is 3 stops, and so on and so on and so on, going up this way. Going down the other way, starting at 1, again at 0, if you're going down to 0.95, like on my Leica here, 0.95 is an 1/8 of a stop faster than 1.0. So when people think, oh, I have to have a 0.95, and somebody has like to think of Noctilux, again on the Leica range, the Noctilux 1.0. Oh yeah, ooh, that was great, but we need that 0.95. It's only an eighth of a stop faster than the 1.0. So are you really gaining all that much? Now, of course, image quality wise and everything else, the difference between the Leica Noctilux 1 and the
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Noctilux 0.95, all these numbers in my head, is night and day difference because of the way the lens was designed in the modern terms compared to 20, 30 years ago. So of course the quality is that much better. But when you're talking about light capture, an 1/8 is not all that much. So you're paying an arm and a leg much more for one than you are for the other. And the prestige is saying, "Oh, look at me, I have a 0.95 compared to your F1."
Well, isn't that special?
Anyway, but the difference between the more common one, of course, is 1.2 and 1.4. A lot of us have both, right? Or one or the other. You're determining, oh, should I get a 1.2? Should I get a 1.2? Well, it's really just half a stop faster. If you round up, half a stop faster than the 1.4. I mean, the 1.2, technically is a 1.1892, and they round that up to 2. And the 1.4 is 1.4142, and they round that to 1.4. And if you do the math on that, percentage-wise, it's 17.3% difference between them. So a half a stop, again, it's nice to have that half a stop difference with the light. But is that all you're getting, is just light capture?
No. Mm-mm.
No. You're actually getting a little bit more shallow depth of field as well in that, which leads to its own challenges on top of that, right? Because in portraiture, having a shallow depth of field is great for the subject separation between the subject and the out of focus background and so forth and so on. But if you get too shallow, you might only get the nose in focus, or just the eyes. So then the nose and the cheeks and the ears, or everything's out of focus. Only the eyes. So the shallow depth of field is nice, but it just depends on, again, the angle of your subject. If the subject has their head turned to a 45-degree angle, so to speak, and you're using 1.2 or 0.95 or any of these super shallow depths of field, you may again only get the one eye in focus, and then this eye is out of focus. Or vice versa. Maybe this eye will be in focus, this eye will be out of focus. So the shallow depth of field is great, but depends on how shallow that depth of field is and the circumstance and everything else. Sometimes a 0.95 or a 1 or a 1.2 works just fine, just in the situation that you're in, the distance from you to the subject, and so on and so on and so on. But sometimes stopping down just a little adds a little more depth to the subject. So maybe a 1.4 is not so bad after all, is it? And can save yourself a lot of money. Because especially in today's, generation of lenses, the Canons and Nikons and Sonys and Sigmas and all these guys who have a 1.2 and whatnot, they're, sure, they're excellent, they're sharp, but they're freaking big, they're freaking heavy, they're freaking expensive.
I don't know why guys are so freaked out about that.
And depending on your taste of these, some people will say they're kind of clinical. They're so sharp that you can, see the pores in the skin and count the little hairs on their cheek and, so forth and so on. If that's what you want, that's great. But in vintage lens world,
the wonderful world of Camerland,
they tend to be sharp, but not clinically sharp. So that's what I want to, talk about today is the ones that I have and how they compare to each other. So starting with the smallest one I have.
That's what she said.
7 Artisans 35 millimeter 1.2, but this is APS-C. So I'm not going to include this in there because it doesn't count if you're going to compare to full frame lenses. So I have it. That's all you need to know.
I see nothing.
But going full frame, the next one is my 40. So I have a Voigtlander 40 millimeter 1.2, and it's a nice lens. Sweet. It's the Voigtlander Nocton 1.2, and this is in a Leica mount because I bought it for my Leica cameras, and it produces some very nice pictures. Now this is a modern Voigtlander, made by Cosina. It's not the original Voigtlander Nocton from 40-50 years ago. So it's a very nice lens. I also have a Nikon Nikkor SC, and it is another one, a 55 1.2, and those are the most common ranges too. I forgot to mention that, but 50 up to 60 in that range. 50, 55, 57, 58, 60. Were the most common focal lengths for a 1.2. So I have this Nikon. I have the Canon FD mount. Again, 55 millimeter 1.2. It's not the spherical one. Cheap bastard. Which is the more sought after and more expensive version. But it's a nice lens. Again, this is a pretty sweet lens. And then moving on to 57 millimeter, I have the Konica Hexanon 57 1.2. Again, very nice lens. This one is pretty sharp. I mean, Konica's got its reputation for sharp lenses. So another nice one. And then the one I have on my Sony is the Minolta 58 millimeter 1.2, and it's known as the Eagle Eye. Again, another nice lens. Each one of these has its own characteristics, its own flavor, so to speak.
Potato. Tomato.
So to give you a little sample of that, just to show you what the heck I'm talking about, I'm going to take a little sample shot, which I normally do on Camera Talk anyway. I record these videos with my Canon M50. Yay! And what I do is I try to focus in on the kit lens that I'm using, the 15 to 45 EFM lens, and I try to focus in on the writing on the end of the barrel, on the nameplate. See how sharp I can get it, how in focus sharp I can get it. And I'm going to shoot everything wide open so you can see what that looks like with talking about background. All right, so let's do that. And I'm going to go in reverse order. So since I have the Minolta on my Sony a7R III, I shall go backwards from 58 down to 40 to show you what that looks like. So bear with me as I go one by one through these. Now, one of the things I like about this particular lens is it has a very short focus throws. It was very quick to find that critical focus. So let me again get in as best I can in here to get that, and again, very shallow depth of field. So ready? 1, 2, 3. And you can see not only how sharp it can get the writing on the lens, but also the quality of the out of focus background behind it. So that was the Minolta 58 millimeter 1.2. Now let's move on to the Konica 57 1.2, and same thing, wide open. And let me get in as tight as I can on this. All right, another short focus throw on this guy. Looks good. All right, right there. Right. Did I get that right? Yeah. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right. So that was the Konica 57 1.2. And again, a lot of these vintage lenses are sought after by collectors as well as users out there. They're very nice. Let's look at this is the Canon FD mount 55 1.2. Make sure that's wide open. And let me get in as best as I can here. All right, very good. Okay. Put that aside. Let's move on to my Nikon. Where's my little red dot? All right, this is the Nikon. Make sure 1.2 wide open. And let me zip in as best I can here. All right, right there. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that was the Nikon 55.
And now for something completely different.
Hold on, time out. I have the adapter on here. Makes it a little easier to use the lens, since obviously a Leica mount is not going to fit on my Sony now, is it? Okay, make sure wide open. All right, so this is the 40 millimeter Voigtlander 1.2. All right, there. And 1, 2, 3. All right, so that was the Voigtlander. So that was our little comparison anyway between the two, or between the 6, without number 6 being actually used, because it's against an APS-C lens and it's not the equivalent, so it's not a fair whatever. So I'm not going to use it anyway. So that was really all I really wanted to say about f1.2s.
Thank God.
You know, they're great for portraiture. They're great for, again, the subject separation, you know, the quality of that background. And I'll show you some random shots here, and I'll label them so you know what lens was used for each shot, just to show you, you know, obviously in my little office studio here, I'm not going to have a lot of bokeh, you know, things to show you, but let me show you some outdoor stuff anyway, to show you what that lens can do, or what these lenses can do. So let me do that here. All right, so what do you think? Look pretty good, huh? So 1.2, 1.4s are great, but 1.2s are that much better. That much better.
That much.
It's not a huge difference, but hey, it's big enough where people still seek out a 1.2 lens. So with that said, let me just give you my little plug for my photo editing software that I use is Luminar. All right, Luminar Neo. If you're in the market for a great little software package that's not going to bust the bank like some of the others, then Luminar may be the one for you. And if you'd like a $10 discount, in the description below, there's a link. You click on that. It takes you to Skylum, the name of the company who produces this thing, and they're in Ukraine. You know what's going on there. So you're helping them out in that regard while they're being bullied and bombarded by Mr. Vlad. And anyway, yeah, you buy the software through that link, and it'll give you a $10 discount. As I said, it's economical. Other than that, you know, it has lots of AI, which helps a lot these days. You know,
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
AI has been in the news all over the place, but it's full of AI. You know, things like spot and dust removal. You know, if you're taking photos down at the beach or out in the desert or somewhere, and you get some stuff in your camera, which hopefully doesn't happen, but if you do, and it gets on your sensor and you end up with these spots on your sensor, there's an option to spot and dust removal. You click on that, it analyzes your photo, and it'll remove the spots. Now, if you have other things in your photo that look like spots, like a flock of birds, no, I mean, like, not seagulls, but, well, it could be seagulls, but birds. It knows the difference between the seagulls and the spots on your sensor. And it'll leave the seagulls alone and get rid of your spots. Anyway, it has power line removal. Same thing. You may end up with power lines in your photos that previously you'd have to brush it out yourself and erase and clean it up around the edges and so forth and so on. But this way, well, my wife is texting me. This way, the software will do that for you. And hey, how can you beat that, right? Just one click, done, and all the power lines are gone. It has scenery lighting. It has masking AI. Has sky replacement, and so on and so on. All kinds of AI stuff in there that'll you know, help your photos look better than they are when you started. So anyway, get yourself a copy of Luminar. Other than that, what else could I tell you? How about you help support our channel and subscribe? That's right. Subscribe. And if you didn't get those hints, double finger subscribe. And what does YouTube like besides subscribers? They like the thumbs up, right? So you give us a thumbs up, we'll give you a little taste of Dylan's favorite part of the show, the thumbs up girls. Thumbs up. Do 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 do. Thumbs up. That's right. Thumbs up, aren't they cute? So anyway, I think Dylan's got the hot for the blonde one in front. Or was that me? I don't know. Somebody's got the hots for the blonde one in the front anyway. So, so I think that's about it. You know, who are we? Well, I'm Dr. Scott. He's Dylan.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
And together we're all Modesty Photography. We're here to talk about tips and tricks about photography, vintage lenses, vintage cameras, camera systems, camera techniques, you name it, we'll talk about it. So thank you for dropping by. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for buying a copy of Luminar through our link below. Thank you for just being you. And should you come back next week? I think so. And why is that? Because you belong here. That's right. You belong here. And where do you belong? Well, what's the name of this show? This was Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and Dylan. That's right. So come on back. We do one of these every Friday. I'm getting to the point soon to where I'm going to have to do this every other Friday.
What? No.
Because I'm working on creating a new channel for my students about logistics, supply chain, transportation stuff, and sustainability and everything. So I'm going to put out a new YouTube channel on that, which is going to take up a lot of time. So I may have to do this every 2 weeks instead of every week. No! Oh, boo-hoo. Anyway, so come on back next week, and we'll do this all again. All right, so remember, it's Vietnam time, right? So it's every Friday. So Vietnam time could be the day before you, the day after you, or the same day as you, depending on your funky time warp. All right, so that's all I've got for you. You're free to go. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Here I am, Vietnam.